It was a feelings wheel. The feelings wheel was a chart on a piece of paper given to me by my field education supervisor at Kaiser Hospital. Serving as a spiritual care provider, I was new to charting visits in the hospital's computer system, and I found myself at a loss for words when it came to writing what I'd encountered in a patient visit. My supervisor, Jonathan, handed me a colorful wheel listing a range of emotions, from sad to joyful, and many points in between. Adept at talking about the thought life of patients, I could write succinctly in the chart about that person's life events and current situation, oftentimes linking those facts together in some larger theological concept I would use to guide my future visits. However, I kept coming up short when asked to chart about the emotions that were interwoven into a patient's hospital experience. Was the patient feeling mad, scared, or one of the numerous undercurrents of emotions? Discouraged, embarrassed, maybe lonely or remorseful? A road less traveled by stretched out before me in my path to ministry. The road to naming and claiming feelings. Before I began my studies at the Pacific School of Religion, I set my mind on being a UU hospital chaplain, thinking I was better suited to ministry done in one-on-one relationships or in small group settings, not the kind of service in a UU church in which you do things like this, stand up and speak in front of people. The idea of preaching a sermon terrified me. But during seminary, I came to see that lots of people who serve in parish ministry are not great extroverts that long to stand in front of a room of people and expound. I believed that it was not wise of me to exclude a form of ministry because I felt fearful or uncertain. I vowed that after getting my Master's of Divinity degree, that I would explore two types of ministry, if I could swing it. I would ask to serve in a hospital as a chaplain, and I would try to get an internship in a UU parish. One requirement of those seeking ordination from the Unitarian Universalist Association is that all candidates for ministry do 1 unit of what is known as CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education. By doing a year-long residency program at Stanford Hospital, I completed 4 units of CPE and was given the opportunity to continue serving as a contracting chaplain up until the day I began serving here. Now, clinical pastoral education is a combination of things. Essentially, a very intense learning process done on the job. Each CPE resident was assigned wards in the hospital, and we made our way around to see the patients in our assigned wards. My primary task was visiting with the patients in 2 medical surgical units and in the 2 behavioral health units. Most days, there were also educational sessions to attend in between patient visits. Several times a week, I, or a fellow resident, would write up a patient encounter, done with the patient's anonymity tightly protected, so that we might learn from feedback offered to us from our supervisors and our peers. Each resident was also assigned to be the on-call chaplain, about 5 or 6 times a month, meaning that we were to be the one carrying the on-call pager and the phone. All calls for a chaplain were filtered through the one person on call. So during the daytime, a chaplain would pass along requests for a chaplain to the resident assigned to that ward. But in the evenings and overnights and on weekends, the on-call chaplain was it. If a call came in, you were to respond. When on call, we made use of a triage system. So urgent calls were given top priority, and calls for less urgent visits would take place as soon as possible. Calls from the emergency department were common and were often challenging situations. Sudden deaths, bad accidents, families in crisis. During nights and weekends, the Stanford on-call chaplain also covers the Lucille Packard Children's Hospital. Calls from Packard were no small request, often a child in trouble or a mother whose childbirth process was not going well. I felt deeply humbled to be serving as an on-call chaplain, holding that pager, waiting for it to ring with a request. Many nights the pager went off more than 20 times, and no matter how well-trained or calm or confident I was, I had dark nights of the soul doing this kind of ministry. At times I felt utterly uncertain, awash in fear and trepidation. But as the year went along, I found ways to face the challenge with a sense of peace, of right-sizedness, and a greater level of comfort. A coping skill I used was saying words to myself in preparation for a visit. Words that would give me momentum, carry me through tough spaces. When I found my heart racing, I knew it would serve me to take a moment, to lift up a prayer, to ask for a sacred sense of peace to accompany me. And in the moment before stepping into action, the phrase I said most often to myself was, "No feeling is final." No feeling is final. Doesn't sound like much, but those 4 words have more to offer than you might think. No feeling is final is a line I heard from Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron. I'm a fan of Pema Chodron. I've listened to her audiobooks, her lectures, and read her print books. Chodron has a wonderfully peaceful way about her. She speaks in a voice that reverberates with graciousness and generosity. In her audiobook, True Happiness, Chodron speaks with self-compassion about the struggles she has in accepting reality as it is, to live in what she calls stepping into the river, to live in a completely and fearlessly present way, even in the hardest of times, the most difficult of situations. Recently, I noticed that Pema Chodron was not the one to coin the phrase, "No feeling is final." It's actually a line from a poem by Rainer Maria Rilke. The line appears in a poem from his collection, The Book of Monastic Life. And in the poem, Rilke says, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final." That Rilke originally wrote the line makes the quote even better in my book, as both Chodron and Rilke are great teachers on the very human difficulty of accepting things as they are. No feeling is final says this to me, that life is hard at times, that it hurts, and that all feelings can be seen as a place of transition. It tells me that the great grief I feel at one moment will be replaced by sadness, love, ennui, hope, even indifference at times. Life is transition. Rilke says it in his poem. Chodron speaks it in her teachings. How I put this to use as a chaplain worked this way. It's 10 o'clock at night. I'm sitting in quiet in the CPE workroom, the chaplain on call that night. I'm in between calls, very focused on a task I'm doing, working on a writing assignment. The pager in my pocket goes off, and I jump because it's really loud, and I'm sitting in a quiet place in the basement of the hospital. I walk to the phone on the wall, and I call the number I've been paged to. It's the emergency department. There's a man in his 50s who has sustained a head trauma after an accident and is being flown in via helicopter. The emergency department secretary asks, "Can I come and be with the patient's children and family as they arrive?" I tell her I'll be right up, and I hang up the phone. My heart beats faster, and I'm aware I am fully alert now. A series of thoughts enter my mind. What's this man's family like? What ages are his children? Are they young adults like my 2 daughters? What are the family dynamics going to be like? What kinds of emotions are going to come out as this family is together? And then the self-centered thoughts come. Who am I to respond to this call? What do I have to offer that could possibly be of use? And then Pema Chodron's words come to mind. I hear her gentle, calming voice saying to me, "No feeling is final. You won't die from this grief and sadness, Melissa. You can sit with difficult feelings, heartache, strong emotions. You have training in ministry, and what you are is enough, if only for this moment, being present and attentive to what is and what will be." Now, self-centered fear has an ugly twin, a kind of pride in reverse, which says, What can you possibly do or say that will make their hurt any less? This self-defeating voice is a monster that likes inertia and doubt, allowing fear to take all the energy from that moment. Self-centered fear is the enemy of taking action. Chodron and Rilke's words help me to reject those dubious and self-critical ideas. I can see that I am not the center of the universe. I'm no great savior or fixer of problems, but I can be a comfort by walking alongside someone, reaching out in prayer, listening as a meaningful story of the family is told, holding a hand in silence as we watch the witness and bear witness to the miracle of a human body breathing. Being present to others has profound value. And though it may not look like a lot of action on the outside, a deep river of meaning is flowing underneath. No feeling is final points me towards a place of egolessness that helps me to see myself as part of a larger picture. By knowing that my own emotions come and they go, I can see and understand that other people's feelings are a wave function as well, and that we're all part of what WeUUs call the interdependent web of existence. My feelings are not final. Yours are not final. We're all on this surprising journey together, and we are not alone. I have one more feelings-based mantra to offer to you this morning. This one is from the mind of Augusten Burroughs. It might be an unlikely source, but this snarky author wrote the bestseller Running with Scissors, which was published in 2002 and was on the New York Times bestseller list. Now, my favorite of his books is called Dry. It's Burroughs' memoir of his coming to terms with his addiction to alcohol, and I listened to this as an audiobook read by the author. There's one section where I literally laughed out loud for quite a while because his voice is just so witty. Augusten Burroughs has just arrived at a drug and alcohol treatment program for a 28-day stay mandated by his employer. He's a designer at a major marketing firm, and he has an eye for what's fashionable and hip and cool. And as he surveys the surroundings where he has just entered, he realizes that the place he is standing is deeply uncool. He sees the people as uncool, and he sees the chintz curtains as incredibly uncool. Now, after he's checked in, his first stop is to go to a small group gathering that has just begun, that the rehab program calls Affirmations. Group members say things that they wish to perceive about themselves to the group, and then the other group members parrot back the affirming phrase. So one group member says, "I love myself," and the others respond, "You love yourself." Augusten can barely hold his disgust as he hears the other group members offer affirming statements like, "I am somebody," "You are somebody," "I feel my feelings and share them with others," "You share your feelings and share them with others." And when called upon, Augusten can only offer a sarcastic line, "I won't check out after lunch." And yet the group dutifully repeats it back to him, saying, "You won't check out after lunch." Even though Burroughs speaks the line in irritated irony, the line in there that stands out the most to me is, "I feel my feelings and share them with others." In Burroughs' book, version of the audiobook, the line is said with an incredibly sarcastic tone, as if to say, what yahoo would be so nerdy as to feel their feelings, and so needy as to share them with others? I giggled to myself when I heard Burroughs' voice roundly reject his fellows in rehab, noting that so often, when I point a finger at others, what I'm really doing is expressing self-doubt and fear about my own place in the world. So, as nerdy as it may or may not be, I feel my feelings and share them with others has become one of my own affirmations. As I grew in my pastoral skills, I realized the immense value in having an awareness of my feelings, my own and others. Naming sadness or grief when I felt it, I could see it more readily. I knew what the landscape of that ache felt like and grew in appreciation of the nuances of human emotion. Naming and claiming feelings became a new form of expression, a way to see the colors of interactions more clearly. By knowing my own feelings, I also became better at knowing where my feelings left off and another's began. For instance, sitting with a mother whose child was gravely ill, I knew my own sadness inside was about having a child who faced a tough patch in her teen years. That was the landscape of my inner sadness. But I could come from that place of empathy to meet this mother's grief and also acknowledge what was hers to carry and not mine to hold. I learned to look into her eyes and share without words that I understand sadness. About halfway through my residency year, I was called into a case in the emergency department in which a horrific loss of two lives took place. It was a situation that hit me very hard, one in which I provided support for a surviving spouse for most of the day. Because I was on a 24-hour on-call shift, I kept moving forward, holding on to my emotions until I was off duty the next morning at 9 a.m. When I saw my husband that Saturday morning, a dam burst, and I cried and cried. I had to feel my feelings and share them with others. Because of strong confidentiality laws, I couldn't tell him about the patient's situation, but I could tell him about my feelings and express how much I love him and the life we share together. I saw my heartache was from my own fear of being alone, and in clinging to the illusion that love and life go on forever, and that all of life is a lesson in celebrating the now and in letting go. I was sad, and telling someone I loved about my sadness and crying with him helped me to continue with my work and keep showing up. It also helped me to treasure the moments of peace and beauty that I experience, knowing that they're fleeting and they need to be savored. The feelings baselines that carried me through my time as a chaplain focus on the task of embracing the impermanence of life and staying open to the broad range of human emotion. I've made progress in sitting with difficult feelings and in caring for myself with compassion by opening up to others. As I grapple with feelings, I learn and grow, and I come to a greater place of ease in the ways I engage with the world. My ministerial formation process is undergirded with emotional attentiveness, helping me to live the promise of our UU principles, guided by the rich sources of mystery and wonder that we UUs draw upon. May we all find ways of naming and respecting our feelings and discover a path through the difficult passages. May we share our feelings with others, and in so doing, care for one another and for the world. May it be so.